In 2026, the financial advisor is like a ghost. They're not managing money. They're not even planning futures. They're manual labor at the center of a $25 trillion machine that is slowly grinding them to dust. Everybody's saying they need more leads. Everybody's telling you buy leads, get leads. The truth is, the reality, more leads is how this machine finishes the advisor off. Again, the rumor is that you need more leads. In reality, more leads, more appointments, more activity, and yet less certainty. So the question is not how to grow. The question is, where's the money actually breaking at? If advisors today have more tools, more leads, more information than ever, then why does growth feel even more unstable? In the day-to-day operations of an advisor's office, instability manifests as a business that is always active but never stabilizing. It looks like calendars filled and empty without a real reason for the fluctuation, right? Celebrating written business too early, only to have it fail due to administrative friction and change of emotions. Posting content, buying leads, running seminars, high activity level that feels disconnected from actual premium movement. These like invisible leaks where context is lost from marketing handoff to the advisor. This forces the advisor to have to reconstruct this path each and every time in every meeting. And let's be honest, beneath the surface of a busy firm, there is fatigue. There's skepticism from the advisor that is reoccurring. The advisor feels distrust of agencies and vendors who promise growth but only deliver surface movement. This burden of being the hidden infrastructure in their own practice. And they're personally compensating for this through just like sheer labor and human heroics. First off, let me start by saying that I did not build this point of view from outside. I spent the last 5 years of my career in finance, in the financial advisory industry, specifically in the IMO. For those of you who don't know what an IMO is, it's an independent marketing organization, FMO, a field marketing organization. I didn't come to this subject from looking from the outside in. I didn't build this point of view from trend reports, recycled marketing, guru advice, or even a theory written at a safe distance from the work. I built it from inside the machine in an executive marketing role. So I was director of marketing. I was close enough to see how leadership thought, how advisors operated, how campaigns were built, how budgets were discussed, how reports were presented, and where the system kept breaking between marketing activity and premium movement. This vantage point matters because it placed me between the organization, the marketing system, the advisor, and the client. Leadership saw one thing, advisors saw another, and marketing was doing something else. Every group could tell the truth about the stage that they could see, but nobody stepped back and looked at the entire chain as one. I want to be clear, I'm not presenting myself as final authority on insurance design, carrier strategies, or even the full legal structure of product design. That's not my lane, and I don't pretend to have authority in that lane. My position is to provide infrastructure so that the advisor focuses on what he does best, which is client relations, and the IMO focus on what they do best, which is distribution. Where marketing plays a role is capturing the attention, engineering that traffic into a designated premium event. My authority is different. It comes from being inside the distribution and marketing mechanics around the advisor and watching how movement was created, how it was handed off, how it was misread, and how good economics could hide weak structure for a long time. I worked directly with advisors in that environment. I was in the Zoom calls, the meetings. I was in the campaign builds. I was the campaign builds. In the reporting, in these budget conversations, and in the handoff. I saw what happened when the advisor was expecting one thing and the internal team was expecting another. And when I was limited and restricted to what the campaign could only do, what the larger structure around it allowed it to do. So I know. I'm coming from inside. I'm giving you my expertise from working inside the machine. Also, I saw the advisor marketing marketplace up close. I was able to evaluate it, dissect it. So it was like almost every week this new gearing, this new piece of tech, this new SaaS, or this new third party would arrive, or this new idea of client acquisition was the biggest thing. I saw advisors leave to try these things, try new things. Some tried it within, and the majority of them would come back after learning this same hard lesson that I'm saying here. Borrowed motion is not a durable structure. I have this PDF, this short book that I wrote called The Advisor Problem, where that lesson sits under this entire book right here, The Advisor Problem. In advisory business, it takes one good client could be worth a good deal. Premium as a whole can hide leaks. Commissions can hide inefficiency. I've seen it. A strong advisor can personally compensate for weak systems for a very long time. In fact, in fragmented business, all of the weight falls on them. My framework is to make movement visible, to recognize the entire chain, from attention to funded. So making the movement visible means tracking the entire chain. Attention, trust, qualification, scheduling, held, conversion, written business, funded premium, preservation, expansion, and referral. The marketing doesn't stop at booked appointments. Where the chain is visible and growth becomes measurable, it becomes predictable, it becomes governable or governed. Where it's hidden, the business still remains active with no clear structure, constant irritation with compliance, and a growing skepticism of automation. The evergreen feeling like that these tools are often just flattening their message instead of expanding it, which presents this paradox that more activity often leads to less command, less authority in your own practice. But then they're told that the problem is visibility, so they get more attention, more leads. But attention without trust or qualification is just noise. Let's say they buy cheap leads. They save money, but those leads end up being more expensive because they require more advisor labor to convert. And that's if they convert at all. The business, it becomes more active and less certain at the same time. I began questioning these from inside the machine. I didn't come to this from the outside in a safe space. I worked inside of an IMO. in an executive marketing position between leadership, marketing, the advisor, the client. That's my vantage point. From there, I could see while every group told the truth about the stage that they could see, nobody stepped back, very few stepped back and looked at the entire chain. So the realization came from watching over time this borrowed motion, buying leads, gurus coming with the next big thing, that advisors falling for it, buying into it, and then coming back with the same hard lesson learned. Borrowed motion versus durability, premium hiding leaks, the handoff failure, sequence truth. So before the advisor has even talked to a client, they paid a tax just to keep the lights on. You've paid a 15-hour tax just to keep the lights on. The lie they've told you. You aren't independent. You're a high-paid admin with a fiduciary license. Let me explain. Everybody gets paid before outcome is confirmed. Clicks, marketer paid, contract, IMO paid, premium, carrier paid, advisor last. The great divide. AUM, annuity. You got the gatherer, you got the hunter. The advisor doesn't control the system. They operate inside of it. Let me explain. So what does a normal day feel like for an advisor actually trying to grow? The advisor's day. High activity, low command. So the advisor arrives to a calendar that looks like proof and momentum, filled with booked appointments from previous campaigns and various lead sources. Midday. So the day is pretty much consumed by the advisor putting on his cape and being the hero. Sure human heroics. This is the advisor being the hidden infrastructure in their own practice. They're the ones holding this up. They move from meeting to meeting, and oftentimes they discover that the handoff was weak, that they're really receiving just a calendar event instead of a prepared meeting or clarity on the client side. By late afternoon, most of the time is spent chasing, handling administrative friction, putting out fires, missing items, just a change of emotion for cases that are written but haven't yet been funded. By the evening, the advisor reviews dashboards. They might see dashboards that show raw leads and activity, but they're left with this feeling that the business is moving, it's active, but it's not ever stabilizing. There's not a point of autopilot. Where is this time actually spent? Reconstructing context, because the handoff was weak, because the system is disconnected, is not one order of operation, the entire sequence. The advisor spends most of his time reconstructing the path from scratch for every prospect. If, let's say, the marketing clarification or even nurture was thin, then the advisor must use the meeting to build the person up from scratch, from ground up, instead of close that person, because that person had no clarity coming into the meeting. Then there's significant labor that's being invested in moving cases from decision written to a funded reality. So let's talk about the advisor as the hidden infrastructure here. What is hidden infrastructure? Publicly, the advisor is a financial expert, which he is, but privately, they are the manual patch for system failure. And in return, they're observing the burden that technology should carry. This is the weight of weak signals. And what do I mean by this? So they're often busy with people who are early. They're not ready. They shouldn't even be in this conversation. They should be in nurturing. They're not yet in a condition that deserves advisor labor, because the marketing signal was weak on the front end. They can't distinguish this until the meeting itself. And then it's too late. The client has no clarity, no business in this meeting at all. Not to say that that client is not a qualified lead or asset. It's just not their time. They're not ready. They need to be nurtured. So when does the advisor actually make money? The fact, only when premium becomes funded. That's the economic reality of the situation. Written business is only an expression of intent, not a fact. Money is only made at the very end of the sequence, after surviving stability, reviews, and administrative friction. So now back to this 15-hour penalty. The tax that you've already paid before a dime of revenue is ever made. So there's a specific structural burden where the advisor becomes the excess capacity layer. The 15-hour penalty is just a cumulative time spent. A cumulative time spent on non-revenue generating activities necessary to keep a fragmented system running, educating prospects in the meeting because readiness was not built earlier, searching for context that was lost between marketing and the handoff to the advisor, manually managing the delays, suitability review, and missing items. These are the things that keep the cases funded. This has to happen is really unavoidable as long as these fragmented systems exist. When you can never step back and look at the entire chain and put it together, marketing, sales, revenue, this has to happen. This is unavoidable. Without preserved meaning across the entire chain, the advisor has to take on that burden. Nobody else is or will. The advisor has to take that on to prevent the system from failing entirely. Does it produce revenue? No. It protects potential revenue, but it does not create new growth. It's the hidden infrastructure. It's replacement labor that compensates for weak systems, weak signals. The hidden infrastructure is having no infrastructure. The advisor being that infrastructure. So why does it compound over time? It creates this capacity wall. As the business grows, the more the sequence failures are exposed. It makes every new meeting heavier than it should be, and to the point where the advisor just has no more time. An advisor with no time left to advise. What happens if the advisor ignores it? Decisions don't always survive process. If the advisor stops playing the role of the hidden infrastructure, late stage leakage increase, funded totals drop, even if written totals remain. So before you even grow, you're already behind. This is the 15-hour tax that you've already paid. This is the after Friday cost. This invisible tax. The advisor doesn't control the system. The advisor operates inside of the system. Why does control feel limited? Because this system, it isn't owned, it's inherited. So if the system is working, then why is the outcome unstable? The system rewards activity, clicks, bookings, calls, even if that activity results in zero economic output. The lead illusion. The signal is low cost per lead, low CPL. That's a weak signal. This leads to the booking deception, where the signal, the calendar is full, the reality, no shows, book not holding. A booking is willingness scheduled over time. There is a held appointment gap. The signal, conversations happen, but in reality, no decision. Written versus funded. the signal. The application is signed, the reality not funded, not placed. Written is just a feeling. Funded is a fact. The metric trap. The system rewards activity even when that activity produces nothing. No economic outcome. A marketer is rewarded for putting leads on a calendar that does not equate to funded business. So the blind spot is that they measure what moves, not really what converts. This is the advisor blind spot, measuring what moves the activity, but not measuring what converts. We still ask the question, where does the money break between stages, not inside of? But if we can see the gaps, then why aren't they fixed? In my book, and in this framework, this is not framed as an effort problem. This is not an effort problem. This is a system problem. The business is not a collection of personal efforts. It is a sequence-based machine where every participant has a distinct, often conflicting impact on the flow of revenue. Okay, so let's break this down. Let's talk about the players in this game, and then let's talk about their roles. Let's start with the marketer. Their primary job is to solve the attention problem. However, they often mistake marketing success for revenue success, leaving the advisor to deal with the weak signals that they generate: leads, bookings, the IMO, the FMO, the independent marketing organization. They sit at the high level managing the distribution machine. They provide the environment, the campaign, the budgets, but often see a different truth from the truth that the advisor sees that's on the ground. The carriers. They represent the legal structure of the product distribution and the carrier strategy. They're the final gatekeepers of suitability and product design. They set the rules that the premium must survive to become funded. And then we have the advisor. In a fragmented system, the advisor sits at the middle, the center of the hidden infrastructure. They're the human patch responsible for keeping this together, holding the pieces together while the handoff from marketing fails and the system leaks. Which brings us back to the economic chain. The system is built on a sequence of events where economic fact is often delayed. And what I mean, so who gets paid first? The platform gets paid first, right? The vendor. Money is spent on ad spends, campaigns, leads, all before a single conversation happens. Right? Then the marketer, the agency, gets paid. Paid for generating the clicks, the leads, the appointments, whether they equate to funded business or not, whether they're ready or qualified or not. The marketer gets paid. The agency gets paid. Then we have the carrier. They receive the written application and they begin the process for suitability review. Paid last, you guessed it, the advisor. So what must happen before the advisor gets paid, right? What must happen? So the advisor's compensation is sort of locked behind this gauntlet of thresholds, where the prospect's willingness must survive the time, distraction, and doubt between bookings and held appointments. Decision readiness has to be established either before or during the meeting to move from conversation to decision. The application then must survive the written to funded process, which includes delay, suitability review, missing items, and administration friction. What can go wrong between this time before the advisor gets paid? Lead quality leaks. The advisor pays for weak motion that never becomes an appointment. The handoff break. The advisor actually receives a calendar event instead of a meeting, which weakens the trust that's needed to close. The process failure. A written case fails to fund because decision does not always survive process. So therefore, the advisor is depending on everything going right before they get paid. This is the trap. This is the illusion of solution. It looks like this big, beautiful innovation, but it's just adaptation. So you're building a faster treadmill, but you're in the same gym, right? None of this fixes the sequence. It looks like progress, but it's pressure adapting. This is the false fix. More tools, more systems, more outcomes. None of this fixes the sequence. Why don't solutions work? Because they don't address where the break occurs. Where does the break occur? Where does the system actually fail? The hidden structure: attention, prospect, lead, qualified, book, held, writ, funded, preserved, chain. Revenue is not created in one movement at the end. It's created across the entire sequence. So revenue problems are sequence problems, not marketing problems, not sales problems. Closing. The business looks active, but the movement never compounds. The money doesn't break in one place. It breaks across the transitions. The gap between perceived progress and actual progress is the difference between motion and command. In this framework, progress is not measured by how busy the advisor is. It is measured by the sequence truth of the movement. Leads, the deception of volume, right? Good versus cheap. A lead is simply identifiable movement. It's not readiness. Cheap leads often represent weak motion. Weak motion that lacks fit, trust, or timing. The CPL trap, cost per lead trap. This is a trap. Cost per lead is misleading. It represents emotional resonance. It makes the dashboard look and feel alive without any economic value. The CAC reality, client acquisition costs. Advisors have to judge digital through client acquisition costs. CAC, CAC, not CPL. Client acquisition costs represents both hard dollar spent and that 15-hour tax that the advisor pays, the after Friday cost of the advisor firm time, the 15-hour penalty. The consequences of ignoring CAC, client acquisition costs, is the advisor celebrating top of the funnel. Cost per lead is top of the funnel. If you're measuring CPL, you're measuring top of the funnel. If you're measuring CAC, CAC, client acquisition costs, you're measuring readiness. You're measuring converted. Celebrating cost per lead, the middle and the bottom of the funnel, and the business becomes more and more and more expensive because you're measuring top of the funnel. Bookings, this mirage of the calendar. So you say, Maurice, what does a booking represent? A book appointment is willingness scheduled over time. It's a weak signal, and it's not yet attendance or trust. So why do no-shows happen? The no-shows are a result of the sequence leading up to the meeting being too weak. Too weak to survive time, distraction, doubt, and competing priority. Therefore, a held appointment is the true threshold. It means that the prospect's intent was actually strong enough to show up. Why do we reward putting people on the calendar, booked appointments? People celebrate bookings because they look like proof. They create emotional relief, even though 12 to 42% of them will never show. Conversation and the readiness gap. Why meetings fail? Meetings fail because the advisor expects the room to do everything. They expect the room to build trust, teach stakes, and resolve fear all at once. What's usually missing on the front side is usually pre-built readiness. The meeting often inherits a condition of neglected trust, error, unclear relevance, from earlier stages. Uncertainty usually shows up. This is a misread signal where the advisor mistakes emotional warmth as a sign that the prospect is ready to move, when in reality, they still need to be built from the ground up in the earlier stages. Let's define written. In this framework, a written case is a formal expression of intent, but it is not yet an economic fact. While there's not really a set statistic, it varies firm to firm, but decisions do not always survive process. Cases fail because they must survive suitability review, missing items, changing emotions, outside influence, and just second thought, post-meeting friction after the meeting is closed. Friction exists, and administrative delay, the late-stage leakage that occurs after the advisor's time and work has already been invested. So there's overvalued metrics, the vanity metrics like raw leads, followers, booked appointments are given too much emotional credit. Then there's the ignored metrics, transition quality, the movement between written and funded, transaction quality, quality of the transition, the movement between events, booked to held, written, funded is often ignored, where teams feel too rich too early when business has not been funded, based on written production that may never be funded. Without measuring the leak, the business keeps buying around the leak, which creates more activity, adding more activity to a broken system. So the business looks like it's moving, but the money is not flowing. You don't need a better AI. You need a system that is visible enough to govern. So why hasn't this been fixed? The reason this has not been fixed is because most solutions in the marketplace are focused on individual fragments rather than the entire sequence. Many advisors have enough tooling to look mature, but without preserved meaning across the chain, they're just operating with decorated fragility. What advisors are trying instead, the volume strategy, right? Many advisors believe the answer is more activity, more leads, more webinars, more content, mistaking motion, just being active for enough. Then there's borrowing motion, where advisors often follow new gurus, new promises, leaving their current system to go explore, only to find out that borrowed motion is not durable structure. Then there's niche and new models. Like specific strategies like AUM-based pricing is popular. Research shows a high degree of revenue model sameness, making it difficult for the advisor to truly distinguish themselves from the next. But they feel like solutions. Why? These tactics provide immediate feedback, a new lead, a booked appointment, which creates emotional relief even if it doesn't lead to revenue. The AI and automation merge. Let's talk about AI. Everybody's AI crazy, especially in this industry. But we have to think of it as application, not replacement. Tools like AI and automation are often presented as these miracle fixes, but they only amplify system quality. They don't create it. AI should not create quality. It cannot create system quality. Automation can hide weak design by making it look smooth. Emails fire, dashboards update, but the underlying issue remains broken. Then there's the tool stacking trap, where many firms have CRM, booking software, and integrations, yet remain structurally weak because machinery is not the same as coherence. Do these actually solve the problem? These tools can reduce unnecessary labor and improve execution, such as sending reminders faster or tagging leads more efficiently. But what do they ignore? Stage responsibility, the need for real trust building strict qualification, and ensuring that real business actually becomes funded. So why results remain inconsistent? Because the business continues to measure activity rather than govern movement, leading to contaminated reports and false confidence. So this is the catch-22. This is the hidden trap, where every new tool adds variables and handoffs, making the business more active and less certain at the same time. So much of what's labeled as innovation is actually constraint without adaptation. Under pressure from compliance and competition, firms flatten their message or delay their process, stripping away clarity and safety, hoping new tools will bridge the gap. True growth reveals what the business cannot yet hold, meaning many advisors find that capacity issues follow growth, not block it. So they're building on top of broken infrastructure. The industry didn't fail because people stopped working. It failed because people kept working without seeing what was actually happening. More leads won't fix it. Better ads won't fix it. More effort won't fix it, because the problem was never where they were looking. Growth only becomes reliable when the movement is visible. The problem is not effort, it's visibility. Advisor uncertainty, client uncertainty, both are inside the same system. If you don't see the sequence, then you can't govern it. Where does the money actually break? It was never the leads. It was never the ads. It was never the effort. It was in the movement between the stages. And until that movement is visible, nothing actually changes. Growth becomes reliable only when movement is visible. The diagnosis is simple as it is brutal. Revenue problems are sequence problems. In advisory business, revenue is not an isolated event. It is a delayed and condensed expression of everything the business did or failed to do across a specific chain. The sequence is the path from a total stranger to funded client. It is the business's only true reality. The chain consists of attention, trust, qualification, scheduling, held attendance, conversion, written business, funded premium, preservation, referral. That is the sequence. Transition dependency. Revenue depends on these transactions because each stage must inherit enough truth and prepare meaning from the one before it to continue movement. Systems usually break at the handoff. This is the invisible gap between a marketing event, like a lead, and a sales reality, like a meeting. Why can't people see it? Why is it invisible? The breaks because the business keeps talking in departments and labels instead of stepping back and looking at the entire chain. Marketing and sales is one order of operation. So it is not one failure, it is multiple small ones. The business suffers from minor leaks that compound. It rarely suffers from a single catastrophic crash. A stage is an event like a booking, but a transition is movement between events, like a booking becoming a held appointment. Managing movement is harder than counting the event. When one stage weakens, for example, a weak signal, it attracts a broader, lower quality attention. The downstream impact, that weak attention creates noise. That noise forces every later stage to work harder. Qualification becomes thinner, bookings rise, and held rates weaken, and the meeting conversations become live rescues, where the advisor must build trust from scratch. Advisors spend their lives trying to fix the symptoms, but the diagnosis remains the same. It is not a lack of leads. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of ads. It's breaking between the stages. So what needs to change? The advisor must stop being the human patch for a broken system. This means preserving sequence truth in numeric form, measuring not only how many leads you have, but the condition they were in before they entered the room. Seeing the system now. When you can see the system, the business becomes governable. You stop buying around the leak and start fixing the transition where the momentum is actually escaping. It changes everything because it moves the business from random effort to command. You stop solving the essay problems like attention and start protecting the economic facts like premium. Growth becomes reliable when movement becomes visible.